Right now, somewhere in the produce section of your nearest grocery store, there are four vegetables that most people walk past every single week without a second thought. That's not an exaggeration. That's not a headline designed to get clicks. What I'm about to tell you is backed by peer-reviewed research from institutions like Johns Hopkins, Queen Mary University of London, and the National Cancer Institute. And the evidence points to something that should fundamentally change how you think about what you put on your plate every day. These four vegetables contain compounds that, at a cellular level, have been shown to destroy cancer stem cells, interrupt tumor replication, lower blood pressure as effectively as some medications, and activate the very genetic mechanisms your body uses to suppress disease. I'm Dr. Robert Walker. I've spent over 2 decades in clinical medicine, and one of the most consistent truths I've encountered in that time is this: some of the most powerful tools we have for protecting human health cost less than $2 a pound at your local market. Today, I'm going to take you through the science, not trends, not opinions, but the actual published research behind the four vegetables that belong at the top of every person's diet. Stay with me through all four because number one is going to challenge everything you thought you knew about which foods fight disease. Before we get into the list, I want to give you a framework that will make everything else make sense. Cancer and most chronic diseases don't appear overnight. They develop across years, sometimes decades, through a process driven by two compounding forces: oxidative stress and chronic inflammation. Oxidative stress is essentially what happens when unstable molecules, called free radicals, accumulate faster than your body can neutralize them. These free radicals are generated by processed food, environmental pollution, psychological stress, and even the ordinary metabolic processes that keep you alive. When they accumulate, they begin damaging your DNA. They disrupt normal cell signaling, and when enough DNA damage builds up in the wrong cells, that's when the conditions for cancer begin to form. So the critical question isn't just how do we treat disease, it's how do we stop that process upstream before it gains momentum. The answer, consistently across decades of research, comes back to food, specifically to the bioactive compounds in certain vegetables that interact with your body's own defense systems in ways that are genuinely remarkable. These four are at the very top of that list. Number 4, broccoli. I know what some of you are thinking. Broccoli. Of course, broccoli is on the list. But I want you to stay with me here because what most people don't understand is the specific mechanism that makes broccoli not just healthy, but biologically extraordinary. Broccoli belongs to the cruciferous vegetable family, and inside its cells there is a precursor compound called glucoraphanin. When you chew raw broccoli or lightly steam it, an enzyme called myrosinase converts glucoraphanin into a compound called sulforaphane. And this is where things get serious. A landmark study published in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences found that sulforaphane can identify and selectively destroy cancer stem cells. These are not ordinary cancer cells. Cancer stem cells are the particularly dangerous subset that resist conventional chemotherapy and are responsible for cancer recurring after treatment appears to have worked. That study showed sulforaphane reduced the number of breast cancer stem cells by up to 65%. Research from Johns Hopkins, where sulforaphane was first isolated and identified, has consistently shown that this compound activates what are called phase 2 detoxification enzymes in the liver. These enzymes essentially intercept carcinogens before they can reach your DNA and cause damage. 2 practical points I give every patient. First, do not boil broccoli. High heat denatures myrosinase, the enzyme you need for sulforaphane production. Lightly steam it, or better yet, eat a portion raw. Second, and this is the one most people have never heard, sprinkle a small amount of mustard seed powder onto your cooked broccoli. Mustard seed contains its own myrosinase, which dramatically boosts sulforaphane production even in cooked broccoli. It costs almost nothing, takes 5 seconds, and the impact on bioavailability is significant. Number 3, garlic. If I could get every person watching this to change one single habit in their kitchen, it would be the habit I'm about to describe, and it involves garlic. Garlic is botanically and nutritionally a vegetable, and it earns its place on this list through a mechanism that's as elegant as anything I've encountered in nutritional medicine. When you crush or finely chop a raw garlic clove, a compound called allicin comes into contact with an enzyme called allinase. That enzymatic reaction produces allicin, the primary bioactive compound in garlic and the source of nearly all of its therapeutic properties. But here's where most people inadvertently lose those benefits. If you take freshly crushed garlic and throw it directly into a hot pan, the heat destroys allinase before it can complete the conversion. You get the flavor, you lose much of the medicine. The solution is simple. Crush your garlic, let it sit at room temperature for 10 minutes before it touches heat. That 10-minute window allows the enzymatic reaction to complete, and the resulting allicin is significantly heat stable than the enzyme that produced it. Why does this matter? The World Health Organization's dietary guidelines specifically recommend a daily intake of 2 to 5 grams of fresh garlic for its disease protective effects. A major analysis published in the journal Cancer Prevention Research found that high garlic consumers had a significantly lower risk of colorectal cancer. Research from the National Cancer Institute has identified associations with garlic consumption and reduced risk of stomach, esophageal, pancreatic, and breast cancers. The mechanism runs through allicin's derivative compounds, agone and diallyl sulfide, which have been shown to induce apoptosis in cancer cells. Apoptosis is programmed death, the process by which your body naturally eliminates damaged or abnormal cells. Cancer cells have evolved to bypass apoptosis. They have essentially learned to refuse to die. The sulfur compounds in garlic override that bypass and restore the self-destruction sequence those cells have been evading. Beyond cancer, garlic has robust evidence for reducing LDL cholesterol, lowering blood pressure, and exerting powerful antimicrobial effects. 1 clove, 10 minutes, every day. Number 2, spinach. I call spinach the silent protector, not because its effects are subtle, they aren't, but because it works across so many different biological pathways simultaneously that it's easy to underestimate any single one of them. Most people know spinach contains folate and iron. Far fewer know about 2 compounds found in spinach called MGDG and SQDG, monogalactosyl diacylglycerol and sulfoquinovosyl diacylglycerol. These names matter less than what they do. Researchers at Osaka Prefecture University in Japan identified that these compounds specifically inhibit an enzyme called DNA polymerase alpha, which is the exact enzyme cancer cells rely on to replicate their genetic material and divide. In practical terms, these compounds interrupt the cancer cell's ability to copy itself, not by creating toxicity in the body, but by targeting the specific molecular machinery cancer cells need to proliferate. Spinach also contains camphorol, a flavonoid studied extensively in large-scale epidemiological research. A study published in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition found camphorol intake to be associated with a 40% reduction in ovarian cancer risk among women who consumed it regularly. A 40% reduction from a vegetable that costs almost nothing. On the cardiovascular side, spinach is one of the richest dietary sources of natural nitrates, compounds that your body converts into nitric oxide, a molecule that relaxes and dilates blood vessel walls with measurable cardiovascular effects. A landmark study from Queen Mary University of London found that drinking 1 cup of beet juice daily lowered systolic blood pressure in hypertensive patients by an average of of 8 points, a reduction comparable to what some blood pressure medications achieve. But the most underappreciated thing about beets may be a compound called betaine. Betaine plays a central role in a process called methylation, the biochemical mechanism by which your body regulates gene expression, turning protective genes on and silencing harmful ones. One of the consistent hallmarks of cancer development is abnormal methylation that silences tumor suppressor genes. Betaine supports healthy methylation and helps keep those protective genetic mechanisms active. This is not a marginal effect. It operates at the level of gene regulation. Beets also deliver fiber, folate, manganese, and vitamin C. Roast them with olive oil and sea salt, blend them into smoothies, juice them, or slice them raw into salads. If you've avoided beets because of their earthiness, roasting at high heat concentrates their natural sugars in a way that surprises almost everyone. Let me bring this together into something you can act on starting this week. Number 4, broccoli, lightly steamed or raw. Sulforaphane destroys cancer stem cells and activates your liver's detoxification enzymes. Add mustard powder to your steamed broccoli to maximize bioavailability. Number 3, garlic. Crush it, wait 10 minutes, then cook. Allicin and its derivatives induce apoptosis in cancer cells, reduce